Good morning, everyone. Clearly, I'm inviting you all on my walk every morning. So maybe you can hold me accountable because I really do need the exercise to keep well. Um, so I'm taking you all some mornings. This is the only spot though that there is signal, so you also get to know my favorite tree. That's crazy, isn't it? I have a favorite tree. I love nature. You learn more about that. But this morning, I want to talk about sexual abuse and the war on love. And for those who are in the group and that is not your story, bear with us because I think that there might be still things in it that you will be able to relate to, that you'll be able to take away from. So, why is there war on love when there's sexual abuse? And for those who contacted me yesterday and you want the managing triggers video series that I told you about, I'll be having those sent to you. Right. So why is there a war in love when there's sexual abuse? Now, there's something about feeling unlovable, dirty, not good enough, that your self-esteem plummet, and the shame, the extent of shame that accompanies being sexually traumatized, that causes this inability to sometimes give love and to receive it. And the war on love that I want to talk about is mostly the war, sometimes the being crippled and inability to love self. And I know that sometimes there's this conflict between self-love, what that is really, and being able to be also self-sacrificing and to consider self better than the others. But I know that we should love our neighbors as ourselves. And if we don't love ourselves, then we can't really love anybody else. And so this war that I'm talking about is this war, the inability to see self as valuable, the inability to see self as worthy, and the inability to see self as good enough, because the message that this trauma sends is so damaging that for years people might live and we dress up the outside, but the wounded child inside is still wounded. And it stops us from accepting opportunities, for going after things that we should, and for really taking care of self. Really taking care of self. I know many people who look in the mirror but don't really see themselves. And there might be things there, but you can't see it because you're not able to look in the mirror and to look in your eyes and to really love and appreciate self, because there's this wound that has been so deep that it causes you to. There's a war going on internally, and loving self is one of the things that gets sacrificed. There's also the war on love is also inability to sometimes love other people, to connect. There's an inability to connect, to really experience deep connection, and to have a fulfilling relationship with other people. And this includes the inability to love our children, because when we struggle to love ourselves because we feel unworthy and unlovable, and we're still carrying the shame, and we're still carrying the not good enough messaging that we get when we've experienced sexual trauma, it stops us from being able to open ourselves to all that God has for us. And an inability to love others and to allow people to love and look after and take care of us. So why am I saying this? Because as we started, it's not a series that I started, but I answered a question, and it kind of is a snowball, because more things are coming to mind that I know people are struggling with, and it's important to talk about. So how does that war end? What are the things that we can do to end the war, and to learn how to receive love and to give love, and to be able to know that you're worthy of love, of respect, that you're lovable, and that the shame is not yours? What do? We have to heal the child that was hurt. And sometimes there's this harsh voice that we, the adult, have, that the adult might have for the wounded child. It's harsh, it's critical, it's judgmental. It's the voice of society, the voice of your culture, the voice of your parents, the voice of your peers, the voice of the people who say, I don't believe you. What did you do? What didn't you do? Why were you there? How could you do that? It's that voice that is so deeply harmful. And sometimes what the victim does, what people, the survivor does rather, is to copy that voice. We copy that voice, and now it becomes ours, and you speak to yourself in that tone. And there's this harshness about hurrying up healing, or not being able to appreciate and offer self compassion and kindness. And one of the things I know is, as you're on your journey of healing, when we go on our journey of healing, we really need to go on that journey with lots of love and self-compassion and lots of care for self, because that really is as integral to the healing. That's really important to the healing process, to be able to love self, to not be harsh, to not be critical, to not be to not hastening and wanting things to hurry up and to be quick. This is it's a slow process, and it's a slow process for a reason, because it needs to go deep, and it needs to be the healing. It needs to go deep. The work of loving self and compassion needs to go so deep that how can I describe it? It's going through your DNA. It's changing. The change needs to be that deep, right? So there's this war, and if you're experiencing the war, if you're experiencing a struggle to accept love, accept that people love and care for you, accept that people will stay, there are people who will stay in your life, and there are people who will love you, accept that there are relationships that might be worth the work, they accept that people make mistakes. And I don't mean the abuser, I mean the people who you're trying to build a relationship with, the people who you're trying to accept their love, and how you're training yourself to know that you're worthy of love, you're worthy of affection, you're worthy of support, you're worthy of care, you're worthy of compassion. And if you're doing that work, I want to encourage you to not stop, to keep doing the work, to keep loving yourself, to keep learning and growing and understanding. What does it really mean for me to love myself? And what does it really mean? How do I settle into the love that I know others have for me? How am I able to identify the people who are genuine, the people who are safe, and the people who have come into my life to love and to pour into me, versus the ones who have come to harm me? How do I heal this wounded inner child enough to let her know that not everybody's going to hurt me, that there are going to be people who are going to love me, and there are going to be people who care for me and support me? And that's really at the root of where the work needs to happen. The retraining, the unlearning, and the relearning love. Now, I know sometimes love was never experienced as a child, and so you're learning this as an adult, and it might feel really tricky. I know my children want to learn a second language, and my sister speaks several languages, and I hear her speak other languages around me and say to myself, I don't have the brain cells to learn any languages. But that's not true. That's a lie. I know I can. If I put my mind to it, and if I become really serious about it, I can learn another language. Anybody can learn another language. Anybody can learn anything. If we're determined enough and set our mind to do it, we can do it. So it might feel like learning to love and learning to accept love in your adult life, it might feel like it's a challenge and it's a struggle, and like you can't do it, but you can do it. You can do it. The brain is an amazing organ, muscle. I love it, because we have pathways in our brain that can change and can become something else, and we can develop new pathways. You see this road that leads down to my house, right? Now, this road is made, and I know the path to go home. But if one day I come here and this road is closed, and say they open a new road over here through the field, if they open a new road through the field, I hope that the signal don't go, through the field, I will learn that new path through the field. All the drivers, everybody who walk here will learn the new path through the field, right? Because the brain will start to adopt and learn the new path. And that's the same thing with learning and this war and love, and why it's really important to not allow it to take you into a path and a direction where you live your whole life not knowing what it feels like to be loved and to love. Because that will be short of the purpose that God has for you and why you're here. And I'm something that was stolen so early. But if you allow yourself, and if you're committed and you set your heart to learning, you will learn, and you will experience the beauty of loving, even starting with loving yourself. You'll experience the beauty that is, and that it's not selfish. That when you start to learn how to love yourself, that's when you can truly, genuinely love others. And when you can freely give, and when you can do more from a different place. The war and love also puts us in relationships that are harmful and damaging. Because this innate thought, this value that is so deeply ingrained, that I'm not lovable, that I'm not good enough, that I'm not worthy, it's so subtle, and it works. Good morning, I can see that somebody's with me. It works in ways that is so subtle that we almost think that we're making choices, but we're not. And sometimes I know people end up in relationships that are unfulfilling, relationships that are unsafe, relationships with people that don't know how to love, relationships with people that don't know how to do emotional connection, relationships with people that can't give you what you need, but you're there and you stay because you believe that you're not valuable and you're not is going low, so I'm going to have to end soon. But that's not true. I want you to know that you are worth loving, and that it's really important that you understand that if there are people that you're with right now that don't see that value, and as you begin to learn and understand your value, as this war and love continues, and you're trying to express this to them and they can't see it, then these are not the people that should be in your life. Because we will have different people in our lives at different stages of our healing journey. At the beginning, we might have some people in our lives. And in the middle of that journey, some of these people might have to go because they know the old you that was hurt and broken. And as you become healed and whole and restored, these people won't know how to relate to you. Some of them won't know because they're not growing and healing with you. And it's really important that as you develop an understanding of self and what you're worth and that you're worthy, it's important to make room for the people in your life who will be able to give you that love, that connection, that support that you need. At our conference this November 26 to 28, I'm the only speaker doing all the workshops. I'll have assistants to run the workshops, but we're really going in on healing the inner child. We're repackaging the story and rewriting a different story that makes you worthy, that makes you know that you're worthy of love, you're worthy of affection and care and support and connection. And that the lie that you've lived, because that's what's been told, that you can live a different story and that you can be free. All right? That's what I'm going to say before my battery dies. I'm going to pick some blackberries and go home. But have yourselves a great day. Bye.